Welcome to the Clear to Send Podcast, a podcast about wireless engineering, where we educate you on Wi-Fi technology, talk about design tips, troubleshooting, interviews, and the tools. Here are your hosts, Roel and Francois.
Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send Podcast. This is Francois, your host. I'm here with Roel this morning. Hey Roel, how are you?
Hey Francois, good morning.
Morning. So today we're here together to talk about CWNP certifications. So that's, certifications we both like very much, and we haven't talked about it for a long time. So we thought we could just, give an overview of all the CWNP certifications, give a little bit of an update to all of you guys who are interested in learning more about Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great guide for anyone getting started and trying to figure out where or which certifications to start with and why, and providing our opinion and maybe some tips on taking these certifications and studying for them.
Just before we start, talking about that, we just wanted to circle back on the question of the week we asked last episode 203, and the question was, what do you think of the new Wi-Fi 6E naming?
Yeah.
Right. What are your thoughts on that naming? And we had quite a lot of interesting responses on Twitter.
I wouldn't say a lot of them were great.
Yeah, it's mainly negative, I guess. My favorite is from Jerdo. He's like, why not Wi-Fi 7 or 6.5? What's with the letters? I thought the whole idea behind Wi-Fi 5, 6 was because 802.11 AC and AX was too confusing for the consumer. So that was kind of like my idea too. Like they wanted to make it easier for the consumer, but at the end of the day, it's very confusing because Wi-Fi 6E means one thing, but like if you look at other technologies out there, the E might mean something else. So it makes it confusing for the consumer, I think.
Yeah, I think it does add a little bit of confusion, especially with the 6E not really tying to 802.11ax, really only referring to 6 gigahertz that's coming. But my favorite comment came from Alan Blake, where if you say Wi-Fi 6E fast enough out loud, it might sound like you're saying Wi-Fi is sexy. And then a whole bunch of other jokes came from that.
Oh my! And and then Keith said nailed it. Oh, sorry, no, he said hated it.
Hated it.
Yeah, never mind.
Nailed it.
All right, so stick around. At the end of this episode, we'll ask another question and we'll put it on Twitter and see what you guys responses will be, and then we'll circle back next week. Second item before we start, the audience survey is still running. So we said we were going to run it until we get 100 responses. So we're getting close to that. So it's still over there. We have a link, cleartosend.net/2019-survey. And you can it takes 2 minutes. It's not very long.
Yeah, and there's really good responses right now. It's very useful for us as we plan 2020 and the types of episodes we're going to record. There's a lot of good comments and a lot of good topics that people are trying to put in there. So really thank you for submitting if you already have, and if you haven't, again, just 2 minutes.
Yeah, and then we'll make sure we'll put this link in the show notes.
Yeah.
We got a comment saying that sometimes you say the link is in the show notes, but it's not.
Yeah, at least it shows that you guys are looking at the show notes, which there is a question in there that says if you're looking at the show notes. So we will do better in adding the links. And as we type, I'm already typing out the links that we have to add in there.
Here you go. And we also still have the Wi-Fi training giveaway. So if you go to episode 200, if you go listen to episode 200, you should be able to answer the little questions we have for this giveaway. And it's the same if you go to the show notes of the episode 200, so cleartosend.net/200, you will see the form that you need to fill out if you want to participate to that giveaway.
Yep, there's a form and there is a question. So you do have to listen to some of the episode in order to fill that out, unless you already know the answer. But we already have
2 + 2.
we say the answer on the show.
All right. And we didn't say what the giveaway is, but it's a CWNA lab workbook that Wi-Fi training worked on. So it's kind of like I guess it's related to today's episode. It's a practical way to practice what you're learning when you study CWNA.
For sure. Yeah, that's going to be good.
All right. So let's talk about CWNP, right? So what is CWNP?
Yeah, CWNP is the certification body for wireless certifications, right? So it's the vendor neutral side of things, because we have certifications for like Cisco certifications, right? You can take a Cisco wireless certification, but it is catered towards Cisco technologies. The CWNP is a certified wireless network professionals, and they have a slew of certifications in different tracks that we're going to go over. But I believe this is where everyone should start when it comes to wireless certifications. And anyone I talk to, when they ask me a question about, hey, should I go for something like the CCNA wireless or CWNA, which one should I do first? And I always say, check out CWNP.com first, because that'll give you fundamentals on wireless, which will give you an advantage when you go take the vendor certifications.
Yeah, and they focus on the on these like 802.11 standards, right? So the core technology, and obviously they also talk about the different vendor technologies or vendor proprietary solutions out there to make it like to give you like a holistic view of what the what you'll be able to find on the market. But they focus mainly on the standards and on the 802.11 standards. So. It's a really good way to just learn about the technology. And then after that, let's say you get hired to work for a company and they have a lot of Cisco. Then after that, you can go and get the Cisco wireless certifications, and you would already have all that background on how the technology work. You would just have to learn, the knobs, the specific, acronyms for that specific vendor. And then I usually compare that to, going through CWNP. It's kind of like learning how to drive. And then after that, when you buy a new car, you have to find out, where the AC button is and, where everything is, but you already know what AC is, right? You just have to find where it is. And when you know where it is, it takes you no time to make the connection in your brain. So it's kind of like the idea, right? Each vendor would be like a car brand, and then CWNP would be, teaching you how to drive.
Yeah, and it does tell you, it does give you the foundations of knowing what those knobs do. And I think there's just a lot of people out there who work with wireless and say they're working on these controllers and they're trying to fix a wireless issue, but they are tuning the knobs, but without understanding what those knobs do. Like, what is the effect in the environment when you turn that knob? And so that's why I tell people to take the CWNP certifications first, so that way you understand what those knobs do, and it'll work. That knowledge will work with any vendor. I mean, every vendor has very similar features. It's just like what Francois says; they just put that in a different place in the solution.
So if we talk about the certifications themselves, the main track, it's called the Wi-Fi track. And inside the Wi-Fi track, you have 4 levels of certifications. You have the first level, which is called the entry level. Then you have the administrator level. Then you have the professional level. And then you have the expert level. And at each level, you have different certifications. So I guess we can go level by level and talk about, the different certification we have available today. If we talk about the entry level certifications, this level didn't exist before. They introduced it after a few years back. And in this entry level certification, we have 2 different certifications. We have the CWS, which stands for Certified Wireless Specialist, and we have the CWT, which stands for Certified Wireless Technicians.
Yeah, and I feel like the CWS is really meant for somebody who maybe in sales or someone who needs to describe wireless technologies or understand it in order to support the rest of the team, right? So maybe even an account manager or something like that. It really is the introductory to wireless technologies. So you're not going to have to understand how to install components or be able to troubleshoot with this, but it does give an individual the basics, and it describes like the features and some of the capabilities that are out there. And the CWS is a good place to start for someone who is really, really fresh and maybe not as technical.
And also it gives you the vocabulary, right? So even if it's like a salesperson or a manager that needs to understand what everyone is talking about, it could be a good certification. It does says in the objective that this is not targeted for an individual that would be configuring equipment.
Yeah.
So it's more like about understanding the vocabulary, understanding the fundamentals of how Wi-Fi works.
Yeah, and the reason why I see value in this certification is because how many of us have been part of meetings or discussions with maybe not the main technical role on a project or part of the organization, and that individual didn't quite understand wireless, or maybe you wouldn't even be able to know if that person understood wireless. And so when they're having these discussions, they're probably not gathering the right information, or they're not saying the right things, right? So this certification gets that person up to speed with the terminology and gives them the basic understanding to do a better job.
Yeah, I guess the hard work would be to make sure that they have enough interest in the certification itself, right?
Yeah.
Because if they don't know Wi-Fi and they don't want to hear about it, they're probably not going to want to study that certification, I guess.
Yeah, so like all of these certifications going to require some level of dedication and interest. So the passion for wireless, it just like with any other certification. And the CWS itself, because it's entry level, one of the cool things and unique things about this exam is it's online. So you can take the exam online after studying for it.
Which is super convenient.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the first one, the CWS. Then the CWT, so the technician. This one is a little bit different. It's targeted for people that are more hands-on. Maybe someone that's physically installing access points, right? Maybe doing a basic configurations. And they need to understand the vocabulary, the fundamentals, but they also need to understand, what am I potentially doing wrong, and how can it negatively impact the Wi-Fi overall.
Yeah, and in this role, someone who would carry this certification is not necessarily the one designing it. They may be given the task of just actually doing the implementation, but with direction. And so with that direction, if it says something along the lines of, I don't know, using one of the tools, they would understand what that tool does and then be able to use it properly versus somebody who was never in this role. So the CWT is the beginning of the technical portion, someone who actually does the deployments. And with this certification, I actually took this one when it came out. And I did study for it. CWNP has all their own training on their website. So the training was available, the online training. I went through that. I can't remember how many days it took me, but this exam also you can take online. So after going through the training material just to see what that looked like, I did take the exam and was able to pass it. So I do carry a CWT certification.
Awesome. I should do it. I should do it too.
Yeah. So I took the CWT after I had already gotten all the other, because this came out after I got my CWNE. So I went through all the NA, the professional level certifications, and then I got my CWNE. Then this certification came out, and I wanted to see what it was about and how it compared to the CWNA. And so again, it really is entry level for an individual who's learning how to install access points and configure wireless. So it's not quite as rigorous as the CWNA, as we'll get to. This one is very basic, and it's going to use words in the objectives like describe something, or even like create a basic RF channel plan. And so what does that mean, right? Create a basic RF plan. It's not going to require this individual for the CWT to really put together a thorough plan, but they may be able to understand it, right? So knowing the available channels in your region, things like that, and understanding co-channel interference. So it's a lot of basic stuff, but also another great place to start if you're very new to wireless.
And for both the CWS and CWT, they have a learning center online, e-learning center, I guess, on CWNP .com website, and you can purchase the e-learning. And then when you purchase the e-learning, you have the e-learning online, and you also have I think you have practice test that you can use to practice for the exam. So
yeah, exactly.
That's like a new feature they added for those two entry-level certifications.
Yeah, and I think their e-learning is the use of the e-learning is pretty good. I've gone through it. It's pretty stable. It works very well. I haven't tried it on a mobile phone or a tablet. I've always used a computer. So on the computer, I know it works well.
Yeah, I've used it on my computer as well, and it worked well. So it's nice. Okay, so that's for the entry level. We have CWS, CWT. Then if we move up one level, we have the administrator level. And at this level, we only have one certification, and that's the CWNA. Right? CWNA, it's the Certified Wireless Network Administrator. And I guess that's one of the most important certification in the program.
It's one of the most known for wireless because it was the very entry level certification for CWNP. So it's the most well known. It's very comprehensive. So it does cover a lot of wireless technology here. So there's going to be a lot of studying for this exam, and there's already books out for it. We've had an episode with David and David on their Cybex book, and you can see, if you look at that book covers so much of the CWNA. It's quite the exam.
Yeah, and if you think of it like if you compare that to the Cisco track of certifications, it would be the equivalent of like a CCNA, right? Yeah. So if you're just learning about Wi-Fi, I'm not talking about, certification and all, but just learning about how Wi-Fi work. You can pick up the CWNA book, the book you just talked about, and then you will learn so much. You will learn you will learn all the important acronyms you need to know. You will learn the RF. You will learn about the frame. You will learn a lot of information.
You'll learn about security, and I know that when I took this exam, there were a lot of things that I learned, especially looking back at the installs and configurations I did prior to studying for CWNA. I knew I made a lot of mistakes. And so I definitely learned a lot from this certification. I was
going to say, did you do some Wi-Fi work before doing the CWNA?
Yeah, I was doing some wireless work with primarily Cisco controllers. Mm-hmm. And I know I didn't do any surveys. I did maybe a network scan. My installs were all done wrong, incorrectly. So if I could go back and redo them, I'd definitely redo them a complete overhaul of those installations. But yeah, that's the benefit of this, of even just studying for this CWNA, is understanding a lot of the fundamentals here.
Yeah, I did. I read the book before doing any Wi-Fi work, which was good, in a sense, right? But it was challenging too because I was discovering everything.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what SNR was, right, before reading the book. So just to tell you my level of, I knew networking, but like I had no idea about wireless networking. So I had to actually read the book twice before I felt confident and, going out and do the exam test.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I still open up the book just because I use it as a reference. And if there's something that I want to refresh myself on, then I open up that book and take a look at one chapter or one section and just kind of review it.
Yeah, it's a really, really good foundation.
Now, I will say with the certification is that the CWS and CWT is not a requirement or a prerequisite to taking this exam. So you can go straight to CWNA if you want. And this certification is valid for 3 years after you take it. You can recertify by passing one of the professional level certifications. And then by passing one of the professional certifications, it renews it for another 3 years. And this exam, you actually have to go to a testing center, a Pearson VUE testing center, to take the exam.
And I guess, if the question is, how do you know if you can start straight at CWNA, or how do you know if you want to do the entry level certification first? I would say it depends on your end goal, right? If your end goal is to go all the way up to CWNE and you already have some Wi-Fi experience, I think I would start right away at CWNA.
I would say if you don't have any kind of networking experience, maybe start with the CWT or CWS.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't have a lot of fundamental wireless in the beginning, so I started with CWNA.
Yeah, you know what? When I started, it would have been nice to have these entry levels. But if you already have some Wi-Fi knowledge and you want to go all the way up to CWNE, I think you can start CWNA.
Yeah. You can even go to the bookstore, check out the study guides, look at the chapter quizzes, and see if maybe you'd be able to answer those, right? Like you could go through the book, one chapter, and then try to answer some of those questions to gauge where you're at. So you can at least take a look at those books prior to being invested in starting this certification.
All right, so that's CWNA at the admin level. Then if we move up one level, we just reached the professional level, right? And at the professional level, you need you have 3 different certifications. You have CWSP for security, CWDP for design, and CWAP for analysis.
Yep.
And these ones will go a little deeper into each subject, right? So security will just focus on, the security. They'll tell you way more about it. Go and explain in details how those mechanism works. And same for DP and AP. And then you can take these certifications whenever you want. There is no specific order. You can just take, the one you want.
You can even not even have a CWNA and take these exams if you want, but a CWNA is a prerequisite to the professional level cert. So even though you pass the exam, you may not have the professional level credential until you have a CWNA.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And then but these ones, the professional level certifications, will be a requirement to obtain your expert level, the CWNE.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll put in the show notes, we'll put the objectives of these professional certifications. Which one was your favorite, Roa?
My favorite was analysis. That one I thought was the hardest one because the certified wireless analysis professional really dives deep into wireless frames and understanding the wireless communications at a very, very technical level. Compared to like the CWDP, the design professional, that I found that one to be the easiest for me. And it was probably because at the time I was already doing a lot of different designs, right? So that I found to be the easiest. And then I found the security professional to be very interesting, because when it comes to security, I don't think a lot of people understand how it works, right? What are the frame exchanges that occur? What about the keys, encryption? How does that work over wireless? So I think a lot of people maybe just have a basic concept of security, but not a very, very technical level of security. And so even the analysis professional will kind of cover some of the security portions. But I thought CWAP was by far my favorite one. How about you?
I think my favorite one was security.
Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't do, you know how most of people do CWAP first?
Yeah.
I kept CWAP for the last when I wanted to do. So I did CWSP before CWAP. And so it was a little bit more challenging for me. But I learned a lot of good things. And I really got into it, I guess. And so I guess CWSP was my favorite one.
Yeah, I thought it was really good exam, especially the topics. Now, you brought up a good point, which was kind of the order of exams that you took. What you'll hear, or one of common questions is, what's the order I should take these exams in? Is there like a specific order where it matters most? The question is, you can take them in whatever order you feel most comfortable with. But the most common one is that people start with the CWNA first, then they go to CWAP, which is the analysis professional. And then it's either CWDP or SP, depending after that. But a lot of people will recommend taking the CWAP after the CWNA, because the AP kind of gives you a lot of information, which will be helpful for SP and DP. And it is also supposed to be one of the more difficult exams.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And that's the order. I think I took it in CWNA, CWAP, CWDP, and then I took SP last.
Okay. I did DP, SP, and AP. I just followed my interest at the time.
Yeah. See, so friends, we both took it differently. We both have CWNEs, so there is no hard set way of doing it. You just do whatever you feel you're most comfortable with as far as the technology goes.
Exactly. Yeah. And so to the question, how do you study for these certifications? So you can actually get a study guide as well. Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll add the links to those ones.
Let's not forget.
Yeah, let's not forget. Writing notes.
You can also take boot camps. I know when I took the CWNA, I took an online boot camp, and funny enough, my boot camp was with Ben Miller, and I didn't know who Ben Miller was at the time. And then later on with Twitter, I see Ben Miller, and I go, "Oh wait, that guy was my instructor." So Ben Miller helped me pass the CWNA.
Yeah, and you can, on the CWNP website, you can find all of the referenced learning partners that offers training for these different certifications.
Yep.
So that's how you can study for them. Right. So that's for the professional levels, and then finally the last level is the expert level. And at the expert level, you have one certification. It's called the CWNE, Certified Wireless Network Expert. And in order to obtain that certification, you need to meet some requirements, right?
Yeah. This one's not really an exam. It's more like an application.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, it is an application.
It is an application, yeah. And now you can do it online, which is nice. And so in order to obtain the certification, you need obviously to have passed the CWNA, the CWSP, the CWAP, and CWDP, right? They're adding a new one, and we'll talk about it after, but they're adding a new certification you're going to have to pass as well if you want to be CWNE. So that's for the exams. Then you need to have some experience, so minimum of 3 years of verifiable documented full-time professional work experience related to Wi-Fi, enterprise Wi-Fi networks, right? Then you need endorsements. So 3 endorsements from people you've worked with and are familiar with your Wi-Fi expertise. Then you need 3 requirements documented. So pretty much what they're asking you is if you have any publication, if you have any blog or technical essays that you have, and you can show and prove that you have enough knowledge to also explain some concepts to other people.
Yeah.
You could also write the essays, right? So we usually call them the essays, but it's pretty much like an essay explaining a specific problem you were working on, a specific project you were working on. And the goal of the essay is to show the jury that you have the Wi-Fi knowledge and show them how you use that knowledge to overcome a situation or fix an issue, whatever the problem was.
Did you say jury?
Yeah, it's a jury, no?
Yeah, I never considered it that way.
It's not a physical jury. You never see them, but...
Yeah, you don't see them, but there is a CWNE board of advisors, and they will read your essays, and they will, I guess, vote. I've never been an advisor, so my guess is they vote or pass you based on your essays and your endorsements and whether or not you met all the other requirements.
Yeah, so I guess it's not a jury; it's more a board of advisors. Yeah, and then they also ask you to have 2 non-CWNP networking related certifications.
Yeah, and they have to be current. It can't be an expired certification.
Yeah, so if you have like Cisco, Aruba, these type of certifications should work.
And I think there are a lot of questions that when people come to this point at the application of okay, what do it seems like people seem to be more afraid of this one than the exams. And to me, I found this to be pretty easy. And I think it's because I'm used to writing that the essays were not very difficult for me. So I would say if once you begin studying your CWNP certifications, I would say start a blog and start writing about what you learn, because that'll help prepare you to write these essays if you're not very comfortable with writing. And I think writing about what you've learned will help you at this point, because one of the requirements is a publication, right? So during the time of my application, a lot of my publications were my own blog posts. Yeah. And so I would show them self-published articles. I gave them 3. And then at the time, I did write a couple of wireless focus articles for network computing. So I gave them those 3. And I think nowadays having a blog counts as one of the publications, because you could also use something internal to your organization. If you write something for a group of people in your company that's Wi-Fi, remember it just has to be Wi-Fi related, then that would count as a publication as long as you can get that approved to be looked at by the CWNP and the CWNE Board of Advisors. So that's one thing to consider. So I think a lot of people had questions on publications. It's don't overcomplicate it. It's not going to be like a magazine article that needs to be printed and seen by the masses. Yeah. The technical essays, the way I would tell you to approach that is to look at the professional level certifications and write an essay on one of those, right? So you can write an essay that covers security, an essay that covers analysis, and an essay that covers design. And so when we talk about essays, it does not need to be a novel. You don't have to write a lot of pages to be one of your essays. It could be a 1-pager. You just need to write about what you've learned and show that how you've applied the CWNP certifications to your job, to the real world. And so when you write that, that's what you're writing about. I would say write to one of those professional level certifications and you'll be good. And then have somebody review it in order to make sure you meet those the requirements. So when it comes to that, I will share a resource that I have, because when I applied, I actually made my application available online. And sometimes when people ask me, I go to my website. And I will say that the content that I have on here is dated, right? So it's just an example of what I did back in, I don't know how long ago I got my CWNE, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. But if you go to packet6.com/CWNE, that is my application. It has my essays, it has the articles that I publish, and then I also showed the podcast as one way of publishing. And then I also submitted my application. So if you guys want to see an example, you can go there for your CWNE.
Yeah, and related to the the essays, you don't have to wait to wait the very last minute to write them. So let's say you're working on a specific project at work and you think it could be valuable. You could just write about it right after you're done working on it, so it's fresh in your mind, and then you keep it somewhere safe. And then, even if you only have one of the professional certification at the time, it doesn't matter. By the time you pass all your professional certifications, you already have one essay that's done, right, and ready to go.
I think that's a very good tip, Francois, because some of you may very well be experts already. You just don't have the certifications, and you've probably worked on a lot of projects. You could just start with the essay and just have those ready to go.
Yeah. And something else for the essays, you don't have to make them text only, right? If you want to share an image of a packet capture, or if you want to share like a network diagram or a picture or something, I would encourage you guys to do that. I think it also makes it less boring for the advisors to read it.
Yeah,
right? I'm guessing. I don't know, but I think I would be, if I'm reading an essay talking about a cool project, I think I'll be happy to see some pictures.
Yeah, if you look at my essays, I do add images in there and tables. You just got to talk to them, right?
Yes.
Help the person reading understand or know that you understand this material. That's what you're going to do. So, don't approach the essays as something that's going to be difficult. I've seen essays that were one pagers and they described the whole process. I was able to know that the person who wrote it understood what they were talking about within one page, right? So that it works. You don't have to write a 10-pager, and I don't think you should, because the CWNE Board of Advisors have to read a lot of essays.
Yeah. So once you have everything ready, once you're meeting all the requirements, you can go online, you can apply, and then they will let you know if you get it or not, and they give you a number.
Oh, one thing we should talk about is the endorsements, because that's a common question too. Is like, who's going to be my endorsement? I think the number one rule is do not ask somebody who does not know about your work to be an endorser. So one of the common things people will do is, and I've had this once in a while since publishing the podcast, is I'll have one person come up to me and say, hey, can you be my endorser? And I've never communicated with that person ever. And so I have to respectfully decline and say, I just don't know you personally in your work. Like I can't endorse you and your work because I don't know it. So I would say you can ask your coworker who you've worked with on wireless project. You can ask your direct manager. And it's nice to have somebody who's a CWNE, but it's not an absolute requirement to have a CWNE endorse you.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's more valuable to have your peer or your boss endorsing you than a random CWNE that you just emailed, I think.
Yeah.
But that's just my 2 cents.
Yep.
All right. I just wanted to circle back on the number of CWNEs we have today.
Oh, yeah. What's that number now?
Yeah, I think it's 377, but I want to double check.
Oh, wow. Where do you even check that?
Oh, no, not even. It's 374.
Just check the last Twitter announcement
that's
from
right,
CWNP.
Yeah. So by the time you listen to this episode, that might be updated. But
it might change, But the last one was number 374, Chad Teal.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Chad. 374. You got your, shout out on the podcast. So it's still a pretty, small group of people.
I would say so. But the CWNP is trying to get more exposure out there. Also the exams are changing, but we're not done talking about certifications.
Yes. All right. Let's move on. So we talked about the Wi-Fi track, and CWNP they're introducing a new track that they call the rest of the wireless world, and they want to talk about everything that's not Wi-Fi. Right, but everything that might still impact us as wireless engineers in the enterprise space. So we're talking about IoT technologies. We're talking about API programming, integrations, and all of these Bluetooth. Yeah. So all of these
5G.
Next technologies that we might have to deal with as a wireless engineer in enterprise networks today. They're creating a new track of certification for these topics. The first certification that's available today is called the CWSA, Certified Wireless Solution Administrator, and that's one that's already available out there. They have the objectives available. You can pass the exam. They also have a training available for it. Mm-hmm. And this one, if you look at the objectives or the topics that they're approaching with this one, they're talking about different wireless technologies, like you said, Bluetooth, Zigbee.
LTE is on there, 5G, anything that a wireless professional might encounter or run into. So it does cover quite a bit, I think. Even location services, that's going to be touched upon. And it kind of shows that the wireless professional is expanding a little, right? So we're now being brought into situations that are not strictly Wi-Fi. It could be something wireless related. So this is something for individuals who may be part of projects that are much larger scope rather than just a project dedicated to Wi-Fi technologies. So I think this is a good certification to have, especially when you're part of an organization that touches so many different parts of technologies, and with all these different wireless technologies coming up, it's good to know what that even means, right?
Yeah, exactly. You might be part of a big organization, and then people from the building department coming to you and asking questions about, what if we want to implement this new lighting system that relies on Zigbee? Like, how is that going to impact? How is your Wi-Fi going to impact us? Because that's usually what they say. They don't say how's our system going to impact your Wi-Fi.
It's not usually a question of how's it going to impact us. It's we need you to install this.
And make it work, please. So you might have, to work with these technologies, all right? So they talk about Lowrise, they talk about, a whole bunch of different range of wireless technologies. And
it might even be comparison's sake, right? It could be someone that you're working with, and they're probably going to go, hey, why do we need Wi-Fi when we can just deploy 5G in the building? Like, what's the difference between the two? Yeah. So you should be able to speak to that.
Stay tuned for upcoming episode. And then they also have a section on supporting wireless infrastructure, and then they talk about the new way of doing things with programming, netconf, API, and then they approach the data structure like JSON and the Yang model and XML and all of that, and also programming Python and so on. So it's really interesting, and I think it's gonna. A lot of us right now are starting to see those subjects coming to us. Most of the wireless networking equipment that are, releasing nowadays support all of these new features.
Yeah.
So I think it's a nice first certification. I'm actually studying for it right now. I was supposed to take the exam this week, but the certification center I was supposed to take the exam at just canceled on me. So I have to reschedule it.
So quick question for you, Francois. How are you studying for it? Because this certification is new, new as of September 2019 was the first class. So are you taking a class or are you doing self-study?
No, I'm doing self-study. I didn't take the class. I know you can get a book for it.
There's a book.
Yeah,
there's a book.
Yeah, there's a book, a study guide for it. I didn't get the book, but what I do is I have the practice test. I forgot how they call it, but on CWNP website you can get practice questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I have that, and I use that, and whenever I don't know something, I just research, do a self-study.
And just to give you guys an idea, right? We talked about programming and JSON. How much of that do you actually need to know? You don't need to know how to program anything for this exam, but it does fall under the objective of supporting wireless solutions, and that covers about 20% of the exam. So you just have to understand some of those data structures and understand APIs, because it's probably going to be a requirement when you're working with someone. They might ask, well, does this wireless solution, does it support APIs, and what's the data structure that it supports? And so you should be able to understand those and be able to say, okay, this wireless solution uses XML and JSON via REST API, for example.
Yeah. And you also have, to study for it, to answer your question, you also have an e-learning for CWSA. All right.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so I have the practice test. I don't have the e-learning, but you can also get the e-learning if you want to from the CWNP.
I think I have the e-learning. I think I just got it a week ago.
Okay.
Which means I guess I'm studying for it this year.
Yeah, you can study from the e-learning. That would be nice.
Cool.
Or you can get the book. We should put the link to the book on the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry. I added a note to say we'll add a link.
Okay. All right. All right. So for the new track, this is the first certification, right? But CWNP is planning on adding other certifications to that track. Right. So this is probably this is probably going to be the CWSA is probably going to be the administrator level certifications, and then we might have some professional level certification as well. So we'll see what's up with that. Roel, you'll be involved in working on these ones.
I'll kind of be involved, and some of this was announced last year. WiFiTraining.com actually talked about this, and part of the slides that they talked about showed two upcoming certifications, the CWCP, which is the connectivity professional, and the IP, which is the integration professional. And so we don't know too much about these and whether or not these are still the names that they're going to use, but at the end of January this year, 2020, I'm going to be part of a job task analysis with the CWNP in coming up with some objectives for two different exams. So I don't know how much I'm allowed to share, but when I get there, I'll ask, what can I share with people? I mean, it'll be I've been part of the job task analysis previously, and it's an interesting process to help develop like objectives for these exams. I was just part of one, but it is an interesting process.
Yeah, and then I think we'll get an update as well from CWNP later on this year, and maybe we can do a follow-up episode talking about, the new certification they will introduce, if they do introduce any this year.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll say something after the job task analysis. They'll probably share some photos and then what we're working on, because I know they did that the last time I was there.
All right. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for all the certifications.
Yeah, it's actually quite a lot of certifications. That's actually really good to go over the certifications, how to approach them, what kind of materials to use to study for the exam, what's out there, and what's upcoming as well. So that's really exciting.
All right. So question of the week for you guys. Which CWNP certification are you working on, and how challenging is it for you right now?
Good one.
Good one, yeah.
How about you already said yours, so you're studying for the CWSA.
Yeah.
And I guess I better pick one.
What?
I will maybe study for the CWSA this year too, if I can fit that one in.
You should try, yeah. You're working on the Cisco one right now, right? The DevNet?
Those were like partner certifications, not really CWNP, but okay. Those I'm done with already. So I'm actually working on a CTT Plus certification.
Okay.
I need to finish the second half, and then I can probably dive into a CWSA, because that, after looking at the objectives, I think that looks like an interesting exam. Yeah.
I know. I'm interested about that. I think we can learn a few things, related to what they have in CWSA. And then I think I'm going to get the book actually.
Yeah, for sure. We should. I want to get the book too and take a look at it, go through the training, and then we can let everyone know what we thought about both of those study resources.
And then the CWT and CWS, I don't have these guys, so maybe. Oh, we forgot to talk about one certification, the trainer certification.
Oh yeah, let's briefly go over that one.
Yeah, so there's one certification called the CWNT, Certified Wireless Network Trainer, and this allows you to teach CWNP classes. And
you have this certification, right?
Yes, they have specific requirements to obtain this one, so we'll put them as well in the show notes. I got it a few years back, but I remember they're asking you some sort of experience teaching, right? So they have an application you have to go through, and then also they have some specific rules about this certification. So if let's say you want to teach CWSP, you need to have passed the CWSP exam with a 80% mark or above. And also, if there's a new update to the certification, to the CWSP certification, you have to take that new update before giving the class, which makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
So they have some rules like that you have to follow. You don't have to be CWNE if you want to be CWNT, right? So let's say you have the CWNA, you have CWSP, and you're really into security and you want to teach CWSP. You can apply for CWNT.
Okay.
You will only be eligible to teach those classes, CWNA and CWSP, if you pass the exam with an 80 mark or above. But they're not restricting it to CWNE.
Yeah, and I think we should talk about why someone would want to become a CWNT, because obviously you and I talk about some of these CWNP topics on the show, and you can kind of treat those as maybe an educational like training, for example. So the CWNT, they're certified instructors by CWNP, and they can train people on authorized CWNP training courses from authorized partners, training partners.
Yes.
And so I think that there is the key differentiator of other training providers, right, that do wireless, is that if you see someone who is CWNT and they're coming from an authorized training provider, you're getting authorized training material from CWNP.
Yes. Yeah. When you become CWNT, they actually give you access to the authorized training material that you can use to teach the class. Yeah, and it's not like an exam you have to go through. It's more an application, and then you have to pay your fees every year as a trainer.
Do you have to give a training in front of somebody in order to become CWNT?
I think it's one of the requirements. They ask you So the first one is attend an authorized CWNA training taught by a CWNT certified instructor. Then it's pass the appropriate level exam with a minimum score of 80%. Have a minimum of 12 months of documented IT industry training experience. Yeah. So you have to have some of this. In my case, I did some teaching in a college where I live here in London, Ontario. So I had that experience to showcase, and that most of the time that's the most difficult one to get, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But if you really want to be CWNT, you can try to get involved around you and try to see the opportunities that you can have to do some training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we are pretty short of wireless trainers. There's not too many around. I mean, there's a lot of them are at Ekahau. I think a lot of those guys are CWNTs, aren't they?
Yeah. I think that's one of the requirements.
It's probably a requirement, yeah. Yeah, so a lot of the wireless trainers, they're either at an authorized training partner like Wi-Fi Training, or they're at Ekahau doing the ECSC trainings.
Yeah, so that's the one we forgot.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's it.
All right. So so let us know what you think. Let us know which
certification are you going for?
Yeah.
And then the show notes, the links, I promise we're going to add them. You can go to cleardescend.net/204 to find everything. And we're really interested in knowing what you want to study for, what you guys think of the CWNP certifications. Especially from my perspective, since I'm going to be doing a job task analysis. So that's coming up, and hopefully I get to share what my experience is like. So if you guys have any questions, hit us up on Twitter at ClearToSend. We're also on LinkedIn. You guys know how to reach us. So after that, we'll talk about some of the updates after you and I pass some of these certifications, and hopefully we can teach the rest of the community.
Yes, of course. I need to go shovel now. Like a storm.
Snowing?
Yeah.
I'm going to go get more coffee.
All right.
All right, guys. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.